Peace, peace, peace. What it is, fam? Just bring in the brother Sergeant Debunk real quick. Bam. Yep, you got it. How y'all doing, fam? So real quick, we're doing a part two to our setting General SaRa Suten Seti straight on the information. Bringing in Sergeant Debunk right now. So the brother had a few more questions he wanted to ask me before I started demonstrating. So we're going to bring the brother in. He's going to finish asking his questions and get it in, fam.
Yeah, we go.
Hey, how you doing, brother man?
Peace, peace. What's up, brother?
As well, as well.
All right. So you said the last time you were just gonna go ahead and address some things. You might answer some of my already like little questions I might have had, so I'm just gonna let you build on it.
Well, actually, I got your text to where you said you had some more questions and whatnot, right? So actually, I wanted to let you ask your questions and exhaust that before I started building and whatnot. I mean, because like so,
Okay.
I didn't
All
even
right.
none of my
Yeah.
notes for none of that. I'm just freestyling with you right now.
All right. Okay. So I'm gonna read through this. So I gotta read some of this stuff out to know exactly what I said because I was just writing in the moment.
No worries.
Okay. All right. Nobody say we Jason. Not sure. Okay. Crazy if we can't lie to self and blacks, but not wars. All right. So yeah, these three questions was like and I think I spoke on this yesterday. I was just talking about the Moorish science brother who was answering, rebuttaling young Pharaoh. The perception that he gave me that it seemed like he was under the impression, or it felt like he was saying that this is the only way. Like this is and I know everybody feel that way about their perspective, but everything else about the way he was saying was real balanced and fair and equal. But when he got to that point, it was I was saying like he was saying it felt like he was saying that you have to recognize as a Moors as your nationality as a Moor to have I don't know, like pride in yourself, or to to fix the issues and the ills of the community. Like there was no other way to, and I really don't think that he really meant it like that. Sometimes you just say stuff in the context that comes out. But I have wrote this question down, or not question. This was really more or less a statement. In understanding that when we building with people, and he was real meticulous, because in the beginning of his build he was like cynical and condescending in a joking way, and then he recognized that okay, let me check myself. I'm gonna deal with this in a peace and a tactful way, and he came back and done that. Right. But that right there, I thought was that's part of the problem on everybody's end, and I wanted to just make that point that I know that everybody does that, and we need to get away from that. The absolution of my particular aliyah. And then the other was the whole perspective that the blind brother, I think his name is Clark, last name Clark. Am I correct? The blind scholar. And he was saying, you may know the phraseology of this better than me, that you have to be connected to land and language, right, and all that. And I was thinking, well, how does that connect to Moor or Moorish, or being Moorish, in a sense that since there are other nations there, couldn't we connect? Because other people identify with other nations, like I guess the Hotep community connects with the I guess Kemet or Kush, and I don't know, because Moor wasn't, in my opinion, from what you're saying, or from my understanding from what you've been saying and what we talked about yesterday, a lot of people could be Moors because it was something you were identifying as, not necessarily a country. So where does that connect? Where's the land that we're connected to when we identify as Moors? You said it yesterday. I know you said West Africa, Morocco area, and I remember that you said that, you know, even somebody in Ethiopia or other countries abroad can connect to Morocco because that was the way that they govern their land, right? So other people who don't or identify with other nations, can we still achieve the same thing as that a Moorish brother would achieve with nationality? Is there other ways that people can do this, which will work with our unified solutions context? Because then that way the Moors get exactly what they want. A lot of us identify under a nationality, but maybe not Moorish. That's my understanding. You get it? Did that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
So right off the top with Brother Rami Salamil, and I'll link that video down below for everybody to go check out for the family, because it's a very interesting video, and you should go check out all the information that's put out in there. You know what I'm saying? It's a good informative build. So go check that out. Brother Rami Salamil is a very, very interesting brother. To where when he builds, like, again, you can see where he's trying to connect. You feel what I'm saying? He's not trying to divide. He would prefer to connect versus divide and whatnot. I'm happy to say that he's agreed to do an interview with us and sit down and do an interview with us at some point in late April, early May. So,
okay, yeah, that's right. You did mention that. Sure did. That's Pete.
Yeah. And again, based upon the whole concept of unifying solutions and a whole bunch of other stuff. You know what I'm saying? But right off the top, so in terms of there be the only concept, right? We're saying, is this the only way? I'll go chronologically in what you brought up, right? Identifying as Moorish, is that the only way to have some kind of salvation, as they call it in the Moorish side of America, right? So let me start from the base concept of nationality, right? That would be the only way that we can elevate ourselves in this society, right? Because this society is based upon, again, like I explained in the last show, a tiered level of citizenship, right? So in the current tier that people occupy as Black, right? There's a ceiling on it, right? And there's something above the ceiling. So in that space, you're always going to feel like you can go higher, but there's something keeping you from going higher, right? There's always this invisible hand. No matter where you look, no matter what happens, no matter what rights get passed or whatever happens, you still can't rise above that. And so the only way to rise above that in this society and stay in this society is to proclaim a nationality to the government, right? But not just the nationality, proclaim a nationality that would have you be recognized as a free white person, right? Because that's the tier of citizenship, right? So peep game. So does it have to be Moorish? No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Can it be Moorish? Yes, it can. Right. So this is where I'll probably get a lot of Moors mad at me and whatnot. But again, look at Brother Mustafa Hefni. This is facts, right? He's an Egyptian right now, and he's a free white person under the law, even though he's trying to be a Black Nubian, right? He can still be he can still personally identify as a Nubian, and still that's still under the concept of a free white person. Because again, like I said, look at the language, right? Go to Federal Directive 15. I linked it down below in the previous video. I'll do it again in this video, right? I put all kind of links in that description box down below, family. It was the notes to the entire to whatever we talked about. Yeah, I'll do that again for this video as well, right? So Federal Directive 15, it speaks upon the fact that free white person or that white is anyone having origins in the original peoples of North Africa, the Middle East, and Europe, right? And we all know that the original peoples of all those places were us, right? We're original peoples. You know what I'm saying? Like so there's nobody. So what do they cover with that? That covers the Fertile Crescent. That covers North Africa. That covers part of the wherever they're finding the oldest bones at, right? Look at Morocco, for instance. The oldest Homo sapien bones they found so far in Morocco. No, not East Africa, Morocco, right? Morocco, right? So that's going to jump into the third party question, right? But so identifying with the nationality, right? That links you. first and foremost, that's the first step, right? But then identifying that nationality as a free white person based upon the legal status of this country and elevating yourself to the top layer of citizenship, that is the only way. And so that was, and if you're going to stay here, right? If you're going to stay here, because you can dip and go, you can go to Ghana if you want to. Ghana's offering citizenship to us. We can go there right now, right? If you're SaRa Suten Seti, right, or you're anybody with him in the RBG, and you can't stand America, what are you doing here? Go back to Ghana. Go back to Africa, fam. They're saying, come on home, right? They're saying, I'm sorry we sold you into slavery by the millions over there. How about we offer you some citizenship to make up for that? Come on home, right? Go home. Nothing wrong with that. We can expatriate whenever we want to, family. Go to Ghana right now in droves. They're not saying no.
And
go ahead.
And let me put a quick rebuttal out in case anybody's listening. And it's because people can take things in the out of context, even when you say it verbally. You're not saying that in an insulting way. You're saying that we definitely accept the ideology and the perspective that some people want to separate. Yes. And if that's what you want to do, yes, there's an option to separate. And we need you. We would need representation there. So we would definitely still want to work together and make connections so that you might have more power there, which will help us here, and then vice versa, we can help you. So it's not a diss.
Not insult. Let me say before, because let's explain the platform real quick. So what we definitely support is Pan-Africanism, right? That's a base concept that we definitely support, right? But then we also support within that the different ideologies that everyone has. So for instance, some people will be separatists, some people will be integrationists, some people will just be some people will be nationalists. Some people will be just Pan-Africanist, right? Whatever. We're trying to find solutions that has unifying principles between all of them, so we can make stuff work for everybody. And the truth is you're gonna need everybody to get it done anyway. If you're a separatist, you're gonna need an integration. So you needed integrationists to help make the citizenship laws for Ghana and America to allow you to go back and forth, right? So there's a so for the people who don't want to participate in the system, there's brothers who do want to participate in the system that you can work with to do that part for you, so you can get out of the system. You feel what I'm saying? So that's the whole point of the unified solution is recognizing where we can all help each other in this. You know what I'm saying? And respect how we want to be different. You see what I'm saying? So I'm cool with the people who want to be separatists, right? If there's two kinds of people who are going to be separatists. There's going to be people who want to separate here, and people who want to go back to Africa, right? Well, fam, I'm trying to link up with both of you because if we can link up both people, that's a Pan-African economic structure, right? And who's mad at that? Who's mad at that, right?
Money.
So if anybody thought I was being insulting, please understand I'm not. What I'm saying is there's no point to be aggravated, right? There's no point to be angry about where you find yourself, because there's a place for us all to go. We all have a spot to fit in this. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to go back to Africa, we're trying to back you in that endeavor, because we want you in Africa doing business. You know what I'm saying, for us. You know what I'm saying, and linking up with people and linking up with education and culture and whatever language, all that. You know what I'm saying? We need that. We need the feet on the ground in Africa, right? And we need the connections here. You know what I'm saying? So wherever you want to go, fam. We back that. That's what we're saying. Unified solutions, right? Wherever you don't want to go, we back that. If you don't want to be here, cool. We're trying to help you not be here. If you want to be here, cool. We're trying to help you be here. You know what I'm saying? Because it all works together somewhere. You know what I'm saying?
One big thing, we got to lock it all down, so we can't leave no spaces open. Right? You know what I'm saying? Right. And it's like trying to start a machine. So there's a lot of different cogs. We just got to find a way to get all of them working in unison, so that we can hit the right gears. Because I heard that separatism. I never really. That was the first time I actually heard Seti's actual connection. I knew the RBG connection. I didn't know the connection to Marcus Garvey, although I heard others make that connection between RBG and Marcus Garvey, but I haven't heard him verbalize it. But because sometimes I watch some of his videos in partial pieces, and I've seen him where people take clips of his videos. I didn't sit and watch too many of his full lectures or the YouTube videos. I just, flip through stuff and everything. But I heard the separatist mentality that he was saying that they are on gas, global African separation. supremacy, global supremacy. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I like that. I don't like I think the terminology of supremacy sends the wrong context. When I hear it from looking at him, I'm assuming he's saying in control of our shit and making sure that we have our presence and we are in power and in control of us. But it speaks to division. And I just think that's a losing concept.
Real quick. Not to cut you real quick, but we got to make sure that we're not speaking for people, though, right? Like we got to let Seti explain that, right? We got to let him explain what
right.
He's about. You know what I'm saying? Because again, we can go back to a whole bunch of videos where he says kill all the crackers type stuff. You know what I mean? So there's
right, and that's why I said how I see it. Like, but definitely that's how I see it from, because sometimes you got to draw context off of because I got to see his body language in reference to it. And like I said, sometimes he seemed like he may be joking, but yeah, I definitely don't want to read into what he's saying, but I have to draw some sort of conclusion, and in drawing that conclusion, what I'm saying is that I don't have a problem with the concept, and I think words matter, and I think I heard them say that. I heard both people say that. I heard Young Farrell say it, I heard Seti say it, and I also heard the Morris brother mention that, and I hear a lot of people say that, and I agree with that. We know that words do matter, and so when Seti was saying that he wanted to, and this was what I was saying, like, well, what do you want? What's your end goal? He said he wanted the Morris brothers to change their book of knowledge in reference to what he's saying, because he's saying, okay, I got you. This is wrong. Change your book of knowledge. So I'm wondering, would he also concede to the concept of what we're saying, that, okay, we understand your perspective of global connection on the African people, but could you change the word supremacy if we felt in our unification that that's problematic for what we're trying to do to unify? Would you be willing to do that? Because it's got to be a give and a take. You know what I'm saying? So I took him serious when he said that. And I feel that same way about any religious person or any religious group, that if you are corrected, that you would make the necessary adjustment. Right. I'm not saying that he was correct in reference what he was saying to the Moore Science Temple, but I was saying that I understand my perspective, because that's honestly what we're doing in reference to these debates. Where are they leading? And I'm assuming we're leading to a concept where we're saying, well, let's put the truth out. And if he feels that's the truth, I don't think he proved it. I don't really think he proved it, but ultimately I understand the concept. But I'm asking, are you willing to do the same? Right. So that public invitation to General Seti. So we're not standing in opposition to you, brother, man. Again, we're trying to unify solutions and whatnot. So we're not saying that we're not willing to unify with the RBG. We're saying, are you willing to come through and speak for yourself? We'd love to talk to you, fam. We'd love to squash any beefs and try to clear up any misconceptions on stuff, right? Because I'll say it like this, like, I don't think you willfully want to be wrong, bro. I think that you are sincerely incorrect. You see what I'm saying? I think that there's perspectives on this that you're taking that might pigeonhole the way you see certain things, right? And I don't think that's a willful thing. I just think that's we all coming from schools of thought, right? And again, I think you're a brother who's going through what I talk about in the sense of as we're trying to find identity in North America, you know what I'm saying, having gone through the transatlantic slave trade, et cetera, right? A lot of times we place our identities on our belief systems. You see what I'm saying? And so as a people waking up from amnesia as to what happened or whatnot, again, we have to understand that these identities are not us, right? Or these belief systems are not us. They are just belief systems. See what I'm saying? So with that, right, I'm gonna jump into the second part of your question where you were talking about Dr. John Henry Clark, the elder, you know what I'm saying, the ancestor, you know what I'm saying, who broke down the concept. What did he say? He said that the name, he said, black tells you how you look, but doesn't tell you who you are. He said the name for people must denote to land, history, and culture. Like, was it language? I could have sworn it. Land, history, culture. That all sounds correct. And I thought language, but I always thought it was history. Language cool too. I would consider language part of the culture. You know what I'm saying? Okay. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. And so that's in the context of trying to find out who we are. So in one of the videos I sent you a video with Brother Lord Merkel. He used to be with the Moorish Science Temple of America as well.
he ran up on Seti one time, and he had a show that he used to do where he's like, "What's your nationality?" and whatnot. And so he ran up on Seti one time and got Seti at the end of a lecture and whatnot. And they were walking outside and talking to him. And he said, "You know what, man?" Seti said, "Honestly, I don't know what my nationality is. I'm in search of my nationality. I'm a man in search of my nationality, right?" Now, see, for me, this is where I think everyone in the community can learn something from the Moorish Science Temple of America, right? So what the brother Rami Slamil was saying is like identifying with your nationality and what it has to do with self-worth is the fact that it gives you a foundation to build upon. I am this versus a question mark. You feel what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? It's a starting point, right? So if exactly. So if you identify with being ancient Egyptian, but yet you're saying you don't have a nationality, that's peculiar to me, right? Why don't you identify with being ancient Egyptian as a nationality? I don't understand that.
Because that is a nationality, right? By definition, I mean literally, that's a nationality, right? Yeah, that is. Yeah.
You consider and break down the fact that the Sepot or the nomarchy, right, as it said in English, right? That's 42 different states within a whole, right? That's the concept. So that runs me right into the third one, right? We're talking about land, right? So Kemet, right, wasn't always like it was, right? You know what I'm saying? Again, when it unified, you had 42 different states coming together to make one unified concept. That, again, miniaturized version of an empire, right? And then from there, from Egypt proper, right, you have from Kemet proper, Kemet goes out and as it stipulates in chapter 47, I believe, in the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, or the Circle 7 Quran, it stipulates that Egypt is the capital empire of the Dominion of Africa. Okay, this is what it states in the Moorish literature, right? Again, Egypt has primacy. Again, I want to stipulate this for the family. So when you're listening to Brother Seti, you would get the concept that the book is anti-Africa and anti-Egypt, right? And you kind of get that concept because he says it's plagiarized and this, that, and the third, and it talks about Jesus, yeah. And so a lot of times people just don't even crack the book. So one thing that we're back in here is everybody should read everybody's literature, right? Because not that you should agree with it.
Boom.
Not that you should agree with it, but familiarize yourself with it so you can understand the people that you're dialoguing with, right? And so you're not making assumptions either, right? Because everybody deserves to have that basic level of respect of am I assuming I know what you're saying, or am I making sure I understand what you're saying, right? So
you're not going to get it all from just the text. You're not going to get it because as a person who is practicing this way of life, there's some intimate, nuances and details that you're probably not privy to that makes me born an understanding that you're not going to really see, so you got to build a connection with somebody in that understanding too, to be able to really understand where they're coming from. Now you can make assumptions on the text itself and disprove factual information if you want to do that, but don't imply, like we were just saying earlier, I can't imply what Seti's thinking, you can't do the same.
Right. And I'm going to build off that in a very quick second. I'm going to dovetail that off the point I just made, right, about the empire and the land and proper, right? Like so again, you have the 42 states, the 42 nomes or the sepots coming together to make Kemet proper, right? And then from there you have the empire going everywhere else, again to the points where you have Egyptian artifacts over here in the Americas, right? And so the concept of being Moorish, right, and all that type of stuff. So there's a Morocco proper, and then there's the Moroccan Empire. You feel what I'm saying? So the empire is so just like there was Rome proper and the Roman Empire, right? Like we know Rome's in Italy, right? And then it had all the areas that it conquered. You know what I'm saying? So the different nations that it conquered become part of the map at one point in time, but at the same point in time, they're also their own individual thing, because So as part of the empire, you're still allowed to be your nation with your culture, with your language, or whatever. There's just something that binds you together. You know what I'm saying? So there's always, with an empire, there's always a proper and then the expanded version, right? So with that, you
tantamount to Puerto Rico and the U.S.
Sure.
Close,
Exactly.
right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So you have the U.S. states proper. You have the continental U.S., right? Then you have the non-continental U.S. and then you have the U.S. territories, right? So perfect example, brother, man. So in the Moorish literature, though, understand this, right? So in the literature, the Circle 7 Quran stipulates that the Moroccan Empire was northeast, like, so it extended from the boundaries of Egypt, right, to northwest Africa, southwest Africa, North America, Central America, South America, and the adjoining and the Atlantis Islands, excuse me, right? So the Caribbean, right? So again, like, you don't have to identify as Moorish, right? But if one did, so again, and the Prophet Noble Ali was not identifying as Moroccan in the modern sense either. He was identifying as an ancient Moroccan, right? Because there's an ancient and modern concept with this, right? Because we can all see how the North Africans now are not the same people as the ancient people that were there, right? But if you go to North Africa, in the southern parts of the state, you still see the original people who are as dark as my brother Sergeant Debo, right? So I lost my train of thought. There was Morocco proper, right? But it's also bigger than what we understand, right? There's also, if you look up the word Moor and the etymology of it, it also talks about the concept of Mauritania. And there's two spellings of Mauritania, and one will give you the modern state, and one will show you an old empire that's a lot bigger than the modern state of Mauritania. So if you look up Mauritania, Mauritania, that'll give you one. If you look up Maure, right, it gives you a whole different one. I'll link both of those down below, fam. And so there was a proper a Morocco proper, or an area where the Moors were doing a thing proper that you can historically go look at throughout the time of, like, Hannibal. You know what I'm saying? All kind of stuff, right? You can't knock that. Like there's no historians that says the Moors did not exist in Northwest Africa, North and Northwest Africa. None of them will argue that, right? And so from there, right, and what Noble Drew Ali says in the literature is that they got permission to live there by the pharaohs, right? By the pharaohs of Egypt. So again, subservient to Egypt as the capital empire of the Dominion of Africa. They got permission to live there, and then from there expanded on to the Americas. You feel what I'm saying? But what they stipulate is that going to the west, that the Egyptians considered that they considered that part of Western Egypt. You feel what I'm saying? So they went. So it says in the literature that they settled in a portion of Egypt, so that the Americas, the Caribbean, North and West Africa, that was considered part of the whole empire, right? That's why it says Egypt is the capital empire of the Dominion of Africa. Right. Africa is just one portion of it, is what it says.
Egypt was DC, right?
Huh?
Egypt was DC, like Washington DC.
Right. Exactly.
Of the empire.
Right.
Okay.
Vatican City, DC, all exactly. You know what I'm saying? That's the spot you had it. So, and here's where I'm going to jump back into the second. I'm going to dovetail a couple of times in here, right? So again, understand the Circle 7 is not anti-Egypt. So if you're Kemetic, if you hold non-violent beliefs, it's not anti-Kemetic. It's very, 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 very pro-Egypt. In fact, again, when Noble Drew Ali came on the scene, he said he was the Egyptian Adab student, right? And so when you do the knowledge on the person who's going around, hold on real quick. Okay. One second real quick. Say what?
Take time, bro.
Probably, if not less.
Matter of fact, let me come right back.
Okay, I'm gonna build anyway. Okay, so
go ahead.
No, I'm building. Don't worry. He was called the Egyptian Adept student, right? And so what a lot of people don't understand is that when you look into the history of the Pan African movements going on around the world at the time of Marcus Garvey and Drew Ali, there was a guy named uh, Deuce Muhammad Ali. Some call him Deuce Muhammad Effendi, but Deuce Muhammad Ali, right? And I'll put links down below for the brother, right? He was an Egyptian, a Sudanese Egyptian, right? Dark as pink, right? And he would don the red fez, the plain red fez, like the Moors wore, right? And what he did is he went around to a bunch of different places and started Pan African and Pan Islamic organizations. And what he also did was he was an actor, and so he also acted out. So a lot of people don't know this, but Shakespeare wrote a lot of plays that had Moorish characters in them, and so he would go out and act the Moorish characters out. He would do one night where he would act out the different Moorish characters from different plays, right? Um, one being like the Prince of Morocco, for instance, another one being Othello, right? Um, so this brother Deuce Muhammad Ali was a Sudanese Egyptian donning the red fez, and a lot of people understand that he was one of Noble Drew Ali's teachers. So Noble Drew Ali was the Egyptian adept student. Deuce Muhammad Ali, a lot would say, was the Egyptian adept teacher. You feel me? So he learned a lot of what he got from Egyptians. And so what he said, so in the Circle Seven, again, it does not make the claim that Noble Drew Ali had divine revelation or that it replaces the Quran. That's another thing to clear up. It does not say in there that it replaces the Quran. That was a claim that Seti made. That's not true. It says in there that it's the uniting of the Quran of Mecca, that you insert it in with the Quran, right? It says that it's the 18 missing years of Jesus, i.e., part of the gospel, right? So it's part of the Injil in the Quran of Mecca. The Quran of Mecca stipulates that the Torah, the Psalms and Proverbs, and the Injil or the Gospels are a part of the Kitab Allah, right, or the Book of Allah, right? So the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, or the Circle Seven, is not a new Quran, right? It's a new Injil. It's a new gospel put into the Quran, right? It says on the back of the questionnaire for the Moorish Science Temple of America that they derive their power and authority from the great Quran of Muhammad. And I'll link this down below, fam. They stipulate that they derive their power and authority from the great Quran of Muhammad. All right, so they don't stipulate that they replace the Quran, but I'm going to keep going. So there's an Egyptian native student, Egyptian native teacher. So let's hit the Jesus thing, right? So Drew Ali brought an African Jesus, right? He's like, Drew Ali says that Jesus was of the true bloodline of the descendants of Africa, right? And then it also stipulates that he goes to Egypt, to Heliopolis, right, or to On, or wherever you want to call it, right? And he gets initiated into the system there, right? He becomes an Egyptian initiate, right? And that the entire priesthood system of the world is linked back to Heliopolis, right? Called the Silent Brotherhood, right? So he goes there. Mary goes there and gets taught. His mother, John the Baptist, goes there and gets taught. And he goes through the same initiate system and whatnot. Who else is mentioned? And again, they mention Egypt being the capital empire of the Dominion of Africa, right? And then they talk about the great works of the pharaohs, dredging the Nile rivers and dredging the Niger River at that, right? And then stipulating that the pharaohs had established trade from the Niger River across the Atlantic Ocean. Mm-hmm. So understand this: in 1928, before anyone else, before there was hear me well if you're RBG, hear me well if you're Kemetic, right? And before there was a Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinet, Noble Drew Ali came through and said the Egyptians were over here. The Egyptians have the capital empire of the dominion of all of Africa and the rest of the Egyptian empire around the world. You know what I'm saying? Said that we had been over here running stuff for a long time, right? Even okay, the Atlantis bit. Yes, Atlantis is in the literature, right? And so General Seti, again, he brought up Madame Blavatsky, and some other people talk about Lemuria and Atlantis. First of all, Drew Ali never brings up Lemuria, right? That's some stuff with some offshoot people that have nothing to do with the actual legitimate temple itself, right? What Joe Ali says in literature, he talks about the great Atlantis. He also talks about a great earthquake that created the Atlantic Ocean, right? He talks about a whole depth of time, okay? But let's talk about where the Atlantis myth comes from. Seti said that the Atlantis myth comes from Madame Blavatsky and some other people. No, 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 no. Don't do that. Anybody can look up, and I will link it down below. There's two stories that people go back to for the story of Atlantis: the Timaeus and the Critias, or wait, yeah, the Critias and the Timaeus. I believe that's how you say it, right? Either or, it'll be linked down below, right? And where the stories come from are the Greeks go down to Egypt, and the Egyptians tell them about the story of Atlantis. Yeah? The Egyptians tell the Greeks about the story of Atlantis. So say the Greeks. So say the Greeks. So when talking about Atlantis is not referring to anything about Madame Blavatsky or any of that or anything of that nature, right? It's not referring to anything that the Egyptians themselves did not refer to. You gonna say something, bro?
No, I was saying, is there a some sort of documentation where the you said the Greeks, right, said that?
Yeah.
Right. So there documentation, like what place where somebody can find that, because that would solidify.
Again, it's a story. It's I don't know if I'm saying the second name right, but it's the Timaeus and the Critias, I believe. Like it's so I'll link them both down below. But there's two main. Bottom line, there's a guy named Solon who goes down to Egypt, and he gets told this story. Right, and he brings the story back, and he explains it to some other people. You know what I'm saying? And it's actually a really interesting story. So the Greeks go down to Egypt. Again, and the story breaks down that they're going there to learn, right? They're going to the great teachers of Egypt to learn. Oh, and I'm going to dovetail off that one. Oh, I'm going to dovetail off that one. So they're going down to the great teachers of Egypt to learn, right? And so the teachers ask them, tell us about your history. And so they begin to tell them about your history, right? Whoop-de-woo. And then at one point, like, so that they're telling them about what they know, and the Egyptians stop. And they're like, okay, look, we've heard enough, right? And they're like, the problem with you Greeks is that, like, you don't have any history that knows that has been, I forgot the particular wording that they use, but like knows the sands of times or has been grayed with the sands of time, something like that, right? Bottom line is you don't know any old history. So let me tell you some old stuff about your people that you don't know, right? And so they break down the story of Atlantis, right? And so they break down how these great people came out from Atlantis and broke into the Mediterranean, and this great war broke down and whatnot, and that how the people that the Greeks descended from were the ones that repelled the Atlanteans, etc. Right? So it's an interesting story, but I'll link it down below. And I might have got some factual on spam. I'm going right off the top of my head, no notes. I haven't read that story in years, okay? But I will link them down below. Everything we're talking about, there will be links in the description. Know that. But so I'm going to dovetail off into the whole concept of teachers in Egypt, right? So if you're Muslim and you're Kemetic, there's no beef. If you're Muslim and you're Kemetic, there's no beef. There should be no beef, right? And let me explain something to you if you're Kemetic. Let me explain some linguistics and a concept in the Quran. So the Quran talks about being people of the book, right? The Ahl al-Kitab, right? And they claim that, bottom line, every nation gets a prophet speaking their own language and whatnot, and that all these prophets speak from one source of truth, and that this source of truth is found in the Kitab and in the scriptures of certain prophets that are made universal. And in a certain branch that they break down that the Muslims, the Jews, the Nazarenes or Christians, as it says Nazarenes in Arabic, but it's translated as Christians. But then it says also the Sabians, right? That it also says the Magians as well. That they will all get salvation and whatnot, right? And there's an interesting term there, Sabian. Okay, the Sabians were a people in the Bible. They're known as the people of Sheba, like the Queen of Sheba and whatnot, right? In the Abrahamic tradition, Islamic tradition, they are the oldest of the monotheistic people. the Sabians. They are the people, the first priesthood after the flood, and Noah is their prophet, right? In fact, if you're a Muslim and you do the history on Mecca, you will understand the deep history on Mecca is that the first people to inhabit, or they'll say that some of the oldest people they can find inhabiting Mecca are the Sabians, right? Now this word Sabian is really interesting because it means something in it has a dualistic meaning, right? But I'm going to hit you with the Kemetic meaning and the Arabic meaning, or in the Hebrew meaning in a second. But Seti was talking about this concept of the five-pointed star on the Moroccan flag being something new, right, or not ancient, right? Not only can you find it on cylinder seals in the Levant, like in Canaan and Moab proper, right? You can find it on flags all throughout the entirety of Africa, from east to west Africa. Okay, from east to west Africa, there's a five-pointed star on the flag. So, what
in ancient time?
Huh?
In ancient time?
Oh, in modern times.
That's what
in modern times. In modern times. Here's where I'm going. The ancient time. So, what is the five-pointed star symbolize in Egypt?
I don't know.
It symbolizes a teacher in the initiate system. People go like the teachers of the initiate system, right? The five-pointed star, right? And what is that word? That word is Seba. Seba, right? And the plural of that word is Sebai. The teachers, Sebai. So understand something, right? In Arabic, and understand that Arabic, in terms of the cursive form of it, does derive itself from Egyptian cursive scripts, right? They do correlate, and anybody trying to argue otherwise doesn't know it. Show me. I'm not going to post any proof for that one. I want you to show me what you got. We'll start from there, right? But they say that the word for Sabians in Arabic is Sebai, right? It's the plural form, right? So it's the same word, family. Understand something, right? It's the same word. So they're saying that the oldest people, or the oldest monotheistic people, were the Sabians, right? And that Noah was their prophet, and that they're part of the people of God, right? And then they also make the claim that the Sabians in the Quran recognize Allah as God. Okay, Allah is God. So this sounds like I'm going in a lot of different places, but I'm going to bring it all together real quick. So linguistically, Allah on one side of the water and Ra on the other side of the water are the same word and deity. R in Kemetic, when you take it outside into the other Afro-Asiatic languages, turns to a double L, right? So here's the interesting part, right? So I was telling you earlier how Jesus in the Moorish Quran, in the Circle 7, goes to Heliopolis to get initiated, right? So Heliopolis, when you look into it, so every state in Egypt had a different patron deity, okay? A different one that they all believed in as the head deity, right? So in Heliopolis, their patron deity was Ra. So when Jesus went to Heliopolis, he's getting initiated in a system of Ra, right? Again, which linguistically is the same concept as Allah, linguistically, and the same function within the pantheon. And anybody who wants to disagree with that, let's walk that out whenever you want to. We can devote shows to the topics, yeah? And we need to for the people. It's necessary because we need to have these conversations. I'm not trying to challenge nobody. What I'm saying is I'm challenging people to have the conversation, not have the conversation. You feel me? We need to get it all on the table and get it understood, yeah? Like, so
we the people want to know.
Right. So this works out from Kemetic to Hebrew to Arabic, right? you have the Egyptian Ra, which turns into the Hebrew El, the Canaanite El, which elongates to Eloach in Hebrew and Aramaic, and then turns into Allah. Right? All the same word going back, right? And so the claim in the Quran is that Muslims worship the same God that the Egyptians worshiped, right? Understand this, right? So there's parts in the Quran to where the Egyptians or the Egyptian priests and, for instance, Moses, right, get into it and they beef, right? And the Egyptian priest, and you really have to understand this part, right? So the Pharaoh that the Egyptian priests are serving under the time of Moses is not Egyptian. He's an Assyrian, the Bible says. He's an Assyrian. He knows nothing about the Egyptian religion, right? So he's ruling with an iron fist, right? And so when the Quran stipulates that it stipulates that when the Egyptian priest, the actual Egyptian priest, right, when they come into contact with Moses, they start battling Moses and they have a magical fight, right? They start doing their thing, right? And at one point in time, they see that Moses' God is like the one that they deal with. They're like, oh, the true God is working through him, right? And they stop, they immediately give up and they bow down and they start prostrating. And then the Assyrian Pharaoh says, why did you do that? Don't you know I'll kill you? And the priest said, go ahead, you'll do nothing but send us to our God faster, right? You'll do nothing but so understand they make the recognition like, oh, that's the same God, right? Might be a different name. It's the same God, right? So the same thing is said for a whole bunch of people of Egypt, right? In the Quran. So bottom line is there's no reason for a Muslim and a Kemetic person to beef, right? Because at the end of the day, they're like Seti keeps saying, well, they stole this information. I hate to break it to you. So again, the Sabians, right? This word goes back to in the Kemetic as being a teacher, the group of teachers of the initiate system, right? In the old world, Sabian was meant it dealt with anybody who had an Eastern religion. Sabian could have been a Hindu, Sabian could have been a Buddhist, a Sabian could have been all of that, right? It was an all-encompassing thing for a certain area. And when you go into it, right, you'll see, for instance, if you read like Drusilla Dungy Houston's work, right? Because the Sabians were like what they would be considered Cushites, okay, or a lot of different things, but definitely a lot of people would consider them Cushites, right? If you go to Drusilla Dungy Houston's work, again, you got to check her out, man. She's fantastic. The wonderful Cushites of the wonderful Ethiopians of the ancient Cushite Empire, or wonderful Ethiopians of the ancient Cushite Empire, or reversed. I'll put a link for that down below too as well. She talks about the Cushites ruling on 3 different continents, basically, right? Eastern. So again, we get the East Indies, the Central Indies, and the West Indies, right? The Indies and the Cushite thing were interchangeable, right? And so the reason why we get the concept of East Indies, West Indies is because they're linked, right? The Indios people, Indios means like dark, right? So it's a band of dark skinned people, right? So for instance, in Noble Drew Ali's literature, he says that Ethiopia means something divided, not directly, but it's a figurative concept, right? So when you go back into the old world, the Greeks called people who lived below sub-Saharan or who lived in sub-Saharan Africa, they called them Ethiopians, the burnt-faced people, the dark people, right? So again, when you go along that line of latitude around the world, you can understand the concept then of Indios, right, being dark, right? And you have East Indies and West Indies, right? So if there's an East Indies and West Indies, what's in the smack dab middle between the East Indies and West Indies? Africa.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Africa. All day long.
Right.
So what's the central? So again, so that's why Drusilla Dungy Houston broke down the fact that the Cushites reigned on 3 continents, right? 3 continents, on Asia, Africa, and the Americas, right? So
okay. Hold on real quick, because I need you to rewind a little bit, because you actually answered one of my questions that I had missed to ask, was about the it felt like the Morse brother was saying that, you know, we don't call ourselves Ethiopian, or that was somewhere in the text. So you kind of explained that, but I was trying to register everything and I didn't catch it. So are you saying that they were different in like a tribal difference, the Ethiopians, then who you know what I'm talking about? Does that make sense? Like, I'm trying to understand the difference between the Ethiopians. What was the terminology for? Because you're not saying Ethiopian, the place that I'm assuming. You're saying that this was a region larger than what we perceive it to be now.
So this is a common misunderstanding with people in this time period, right? So when Seti points out the Ethiopia thing, right? Understand something. There was not a place called Ethiopia at the time. In 1928, go to the map. It said Abyssinia. Haile Selassie had it called Ethiopia after the prophet changed form, right? Haile Selassie was campaigning at one point in time to get all of Africa named Ethiopia. When he couldn't get that done, he decided to rename Abyssinia Ethiopia.
Okay.
So when you go back to the maps again of the time, it doesn't say Ethiopia on the map; it says Abyssinia. So there was no so people coming in and naturalizing as citizens. They were naturalizing like when it says, "What's your nationality?" Abyssinian. I come from Abyssinia. They didn't write Ethiopian at the time because it wasn't a country until Haile Selassie renamed the country Abyssinia or renamed the country Ethiopia. Right. So again, at the time period, he's referring to it meaning a demarcation line, right? It mean a dividing line between the people, right? And so it goes, and when you look at it, it's an upper and lower kind of a thing, right? Like the way it's used in the old world, in the sense to where, again, it's you can look at it now, right? To where people would say sub-Saharan African or North African.
Right. Okay.
That's the concept.
I knew because I was like, I'm thinking Ethiopian, the place, current, right. And I'm thinking, okay, there's something different here. Okay.
Now, people. Now, so if I was a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America, still, right, I would be singing at the top of my lungs that proclaiming this is why Drew Ali is a prophet, because of what he says about Ethiopia, right? So in 2020, for the first time ever, right, you'll be able to identify as being North African and Black, right? So you can be Ethiopian, or let me say it like this: Ethiopian or identifying as Ethiopian is still not a nationality that puts you at free white person. It's still not a nationality that puts you at that top tier status, right? However, right, you can identify as being ancient Ethiopian or ancient whatever, or Abyssinian or Sabian if you like, right? Nothing wrong with that. And understand that. Wait a minute, that's part of the original peoples who occupied all these places. Yeah, I can still be a free white person. There's literally this is what I was trying to tell you about Rami Salamel in terms of where some Moors might be mad at me, to where like it doesn't matter what nationality you pick. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. But in the Americas, it makes sense to connect yourself to an ancient people, right? We don't know who we are really, right?
Right. So we can choose,
right,
to a degree. I mean, if we want, I don't know if you trust the genealogy of, getting your blood checked and everything, but people can go from that concept, whatever, but we want to feel connected. So, and I know that's why I think a lot of people would accept this perspective of pick that, because I told you last time, like I would like Seti was saying, that's the same thing I was thinking. That's another thing I was like, yo, well, he seemed pretty peace. Usually he screaming and yelling, but he seemed pretty peace. And that's a good, honest answer, because I want to, but I don't know. I don't know if I want to identify with Morse, because do that means I gotta join the Morse Science Temple?
No.
Or is it just that's what I'm saying. So
this is where I'm gonna get a lot of Moors mad at me too, right? So my apologies to the Moors. We can do if you feel I need to be corrected on this information, I will sit down on camera with y'all and let y'all correct me, and we can work through it and whatnot, and we can compare and contrast, and we can have the whole come divided concept, the unified solution out there, right? We can practice what we preach, and I'm not saying I have all the answers, right? From my understanding, okay. Well, hold on. What was the question you just asked? I just want to make sure I got it clear.
I was saying about you don't have to join the Moorish Science Temple,
right,
to identify as a Moor. Right.
So it says in their questionnaire, their 101s and 102s, It says that it asks what the nationality of Noble Ali was, and it says Moorish American. Then it says, what's your nationality? And it says Moorish American. Then it says, why are we Moorish American? Because we are descendants of Moroccans and born in America. Not because you're part of the temple, right? Not because you're part of the temple, right? So again, it's all about what you identify as. So we can do DNA tests right now, right? I can say I know I got people who, let's say, go back to like Nigeria, Cameroon, Senegal, like that type of area, right? Also North Africa, all that type of stuff, right? Cool. My DNA says that. So does Senegal, Nigeria, and North Africa, will they extend me citizenship because of that? Nope.
No. They don't hear that.
The only country willing to extend a citizenship family is Ghana right now. And yeah. I got a question. Do you think they're going to take all 45 million of us?
No. No. I don't think so.
I'm just saying.
I don't know how much space they got.
So they only sold a couple of million of us. You feel me? I don't think they're going to take all 45. They're not going to claim all. Like, we ain't do all that. Come on now. So
now.
Yeah, be easy. So this is what I'm saying. So Drew Ali connected people to an ancient nationality, but not just any ancient nationality, one that was an overarching, encompassing, empirical nationality that allowed you to be whatever. So again, you're finding out you're Nigerian or you're Malayan or whatever. I'm Mandinka, I'm Yoruba, I'm Igbo. Cool. All of that was underneath there. You feel me? That's the point, is you could be that, strongly that, and still say, so the concept of being Moorish is the concept of being Pan-African. You feel me? Right. In terms of the imperial, it's whatever you are, cool. Let's work together wherever you're at, right? Except it's on an empirical basis. There was a home front. There was a proper, right? So in Pan-Africanism, I would assume that Africa would be the proper, right? One would assume. Or we just understand that there is no proper, like we're people in the diaspora that have no proper, right? I would say almost go at it like from that. I think we need to do that to begin with, right? As people in the diaspora understand there is no proper for us to start from, right? If just as a base, right? Because some people won't accept it that we existed over in the Americas before Columbus got here. Some people won't accept a whole bunch. So for all of that, for all the people who won't accept certain things, I'm saying let's start off at a baseline we can all basically accept. You know what I'm saying? Is that we know that we are not all the same people. We come from similar places, and we went through slavery, right? Mm-hmm. So based upon that, if you don't want to call yourself what I call myself, I'm not going to get offended at that. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't want to call yourself a Moor, or you don't want to call yourself a Hebrew, or you don't want to call yourself Kemetic, I'm not going to be mad at that, right? However, what I would recommend that you take from the Moors, I would recommend that everybody take from the Moors, right? So if you're a Hebrew Israelite, right, understand some stuff, right? You're either gonna mark yourself on the census in 2020 or you're not. And so if you mark yourself on the census, I'm saying you should mark white. Because again, read it out. If you're Hebrew Israelite, hear me well. Federal Directive 15, any people having origins in any of the original people of North Africa, the Middle East, or Europe. So you tell me Canaan's not part of that. You tell me Israel's not part of that, right? So that's you, right? You're Kemetic, yeah? North Africa, Middle East, Europe. Sounds like North Africa to me, don't it? So again, Mustafa Hefni, right? You're Moorish, Morocco proper, North Africa. Right? So you can be African all day. And if you don't want to be African, you don't have to be. Like, so the Hebrew Israelites don't want to say that they're African, right? Well, check this out. Clicking white. And, if you're Hebrew Israelite, check this out. There's a Hebrew word, the hore or hori, right? It means noble. It means pure, and it means white. It means freeborn. Just like what Prophet Noble Ali said, white means purity. Purity means God, and God means ruler of the land. So there, in the Hebrew, there's the caste system where the whites are the nobles, yeah? So I don't care what system you're rocking, okay? If you're Egyptian, right? Man, okay. So What do you see? What do you see? What do you see Osiris wrapped up in all day? What does white represent in Kemetic stuff? Right. I'll let y'all teach me on that. How about that? Right. So Seti, you bring that one to the table. Like I would love to build with you, and you come through and you tell us what the Kemetic view of what white. Yeah. But bottom line is, you said you were in search of a nationality. I'm saying you should identify as Kemetic. Yeah. If you're with that, you went there. You said you got raised in the craft of Amun Ra. Yeah. Why not identify as Kemetic? Not Egyptian, Kemetic. Why not be Kemetic American? Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Why not be a full citizen? If you want to be, if like I don't know where Seti's mindset is, right? But he seems like he's not going nowhere, right? He seems like he's going to be here, right? So if you're going to be here, why not be at the top level of what you could be here? Be African, right? Be African, and also be Kemetic, all at the same time. I don't understand it. Like, I don't understand why people would prefer to be here, not be Kemetic, be African and black, and then practice ancient Egyptian stuff, and and be oppressed while doing it. Like, you can have your religion or your philosophy. You can have your ancient ideology and your identity, right? And you can be at the top level of citizenship all at the same time while still being African. While still being African. I don't understand it.
Now, there's one concept that we're kind of missing. I guess in reference to him anybody making that type of decision. That I think that I had this conversation with you because I know like brothers in the nation of God's and earth, their concept is I don't have to go to the government to apply to make any adjustments or changes. Like, well, I don't know if every God feel this way, but the gods that I built with had the perspective of, like I don't need to get a marriage license to say I'm married when I accept this woman and I say she's my wife and she's my wife. That concept, so it falls in line with, I guess, claiming a nationality in the legal sense. But we were talking about unified solutions and coming divided. Some people will feel that way, and I think that's the separatist mentality to a degree. Like, I don't have to deal with this government in any way, and then you don't have power. So that's the thing that I am struggling with. So I know this.
Not to cut you, my phone's about to die, so I have to hit the finish button so we can get this going. We can record this, and so we'll pick this up on the third part because I see where you're going with this. Okay, I think that'll be a lovely third build. Okay, no worries.
Okay.
All right, man. Peace and love, family. Debunk in the Naturalists. Signing out.
The Naturalists. Peace. One.